The stars were burning, not with their natural light, but with the fire of war. Queen Yura stood at the command window of her flagship, watching her world die. Her large compound eyes reflected the orange flames of ships exploding in the darkness. Each flash meant more of her people gone forever. Each silent burst of light was a funeral she could not attend. The Valorian queendom was falling. After 10,000 years of peace, her species faced something they had never imagined: extinction. Yura's hands trembled as she gripped the cold metal railing. Her skin was pale blue, smooth like polished stone, and her 4 arms hung at her sides in exhaustion. She had not slept in 3 days. She had not eaten in 2. The weight of leadership pressed down on her chest like a mountain. "My queen," said General Huan, stepping beside her. He was old, his antenna bent with age, but his voice remained steady. "We must retreat. The jump gate is still open. We can escape to neutral space. And leave them?" Yura pointed at the burning ships. "Leave our soldiers to die alone? They are already dead, my queen, or they will be soon. But the children in the cargo holds below 8,000 of them. They still live. They need their queen." Yura closed her eyes. 8,000. That was all that remained of the Valorian people. Once they had numbered in the billions. They had built great cities that floated among the clouds. They had created art and music that other species traveled across galaxies to witness. They had been peaceful. They had been proud. And then the Drekker came. The Drekker Empire wanted one thing from every species they met: submission, complete and total surrender. They wanted the Valorians to kneel, to give up their culture, their identity, their freedom. When Yura's mother, the previous queen, refused, the Drekker responded with war. That was 2 years ago. Yura's mother died in the first battle. Yura became queen at 23 years old, inheriting a crown made of ashes and a throne surrounded by flames. Now, standing in her dying flagship, she understood the truth. She had failed. Despite everything she had done, every sacrifice she had made, she could not save her people. "Admiral Vosk is hailing us," a young officer called out. Her voice shook with fear. "He demands our surrender." Yura turned from the window. "Show me." The holographic screen flickered to life. Admiral Vosk appeared, a massive creature with gray skin covered in scales, eyes like black pits, and teeth filed to sharp points. He sat in his command chair like it was a throne, surrounded by the trophies of his conquests. Flags from destroyed civilizations, weapons taken from dead generals, skulls of species that no longer existed. "Queen Yura," Vosk said, his voice a deep rumble that seemed to shake the air itself. "You have fought well, better than most. But this war is over. Surrender now, and I will allow your remaining people to live as servants of the Empire. Resist, and I will hunt down every last Valorian child and crush them beneath my boots." Yura's jaw tightened. "My people do not kneel." Vosk laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Then your people will die. All of them. I have destroyed 12 species, Yura. You will be my 13th. Think carefully before you answer." The screen went dark. Silence filled the command room. Every officer, every soldier, every crew member looked at their queen. They were waiting for her decision. They were waiting for hope. But Yura had no hope left to give. "Prepare the jump sequence," she said quietly. "We retreat." It was the hardest order she had ever given. It tasted like defeat. It felt like betrayal. But General Huan was right. The children needed her. The last 8,000 Valorians needed their queen. Even if that queen was broken. As her crew scrambled to obey, a strange sound cut through the bridge. A communication signal, but not from the Drekker. This signal was different, older, weaker. "What is that?" Yura asked. The young officer checked her screen. confusion on her face. "It is a ship, my queen. A small one. A fighter craft. It is hailing us. One of ours?" "No. The signal signature is human." Human. Yura knew of humanity. They were a young species, barely 1,000 years into space travel. They had no empire, no great fleet, no political power. Most galactic species considered them insignificant. Children playing among giants. "Show me," Yura commanded. The screen flickered again. This time, a different face appeared. A human face. Male, with dark hair cut short and skin the color of warm earth. His eyes were brown, tired, and carried a weight that seemed far too heavy for someone so young. Behind him, Yura could see the cramped interior of a tiny spacecraft. It looked old, damaged, held together by patches and prayers. "This is Taiho," the human said. His voice was calm, steady. "Independent pilot. I picked up your distress signals. I am offering my services." General Juan stepped forward, his antenna twitching with suspicion. "Services? What services can one human and a broken ship offer to us?" Taiho did not blink. "Whatever you need." "We need a miracle," the general said bitterly. "Can you offer that?" "No," Taiho admitted. "Miracles are for gods. I am just a pilot. But I am a very good pilot, and I have nothing left to lose." Yura studied the human on the screen. He was small by Valorian standards, fragile-looking. His ship was a joke compared to Drekker warships. By all logic, he should be running away, not toward a dying fleet. Why? She asked. Why would a human involve himself in a war that is not his? "We have nothing to offer you. No payment, no reward. Only death." Taiho was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "I have seen extinction before, Your Majesty. Not of a species, but of a people. Their culture, their hope, their future. I watched it happen, and I did nothing. I was too afraid. Too weak." He paused, and Yura saw something in his eyes. Pain. Old pain that had never healed. "I will not watch it again," he finished. "Not if I can help. Even if that help is small. Even if it costs me everything." The bridge was silent. Yura's officers looked at each other, unsure what to make of this strange human and his strange offer. But Yura understood. She recognized the look in his eyes because she saw it in her own reflection every day. It was the look of someone who had failed once and refused to fail again. "Open the docking bay," she ordered. General Juan grabbed her arm. "My queen, this is madness. He could be a spy. A trap. He is one human in a broken ship," Yura said. "If this is a trap, it is a very poor one." She looked back at the screen, at the tired human pilot who had flown into a war zone to offer help to strangers. And if he is telling the truth, then perhaps he is exactly what we need. She turned to face the screen fully. "Welcome aboard, Taiho of humanity. I am Queen Yura of the Valorian people. Come, let us see if together we can find a way to survive." The transmission ended. Somewhere in the darkness of space, a tiny human fighter changed course and headed toward the Valorian flagship Dot, and for the first time in many days, Queen Yura felt something stir in her chest. It was small, fragile, easily broken, but it was their hope. The docking bay was cold and dark. Most of the lights had been destroyed in earlier attacks, and the ones that remained flickered weakly like dying candles. Yura stood waiting with General Juan and 4 armed guards, watching the small human fighter settle onto the metal floor. The ship looked even worse up close. Its hull was covered in burn marks and patches. One of its wings was bent at a strange angle. The cockpit glass was cracked in 3 places. It was a miracle the thing could still fly at all. The cockpit hissed open, and the human climbed out, Taiho was smaller than Yura expected. Humans were already a short species compared to Valorians, but this one seemed particularly lean. He wore a worn flight suit, faded gray with patches on the elbows and knees. An old pistol hung at his hip, and a bag was slung over his shoulder. That was all he carried. Everything he owned in the universe fit in one bag. He dropped to the floor and stood straight, looking up at the Valorians towering over him. He did not seem afraid. If anything, he seemed tired, like a man who had been running for a very long time and had finally stopped. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing his head slightly. "Thank you for letting me aboard." General Juan stepped forward, his antenna flat against his head in suspicion. "Before you come any further, human, you will answer our questions. Who are you? Where do you come from? Why are you really here?" Taiho met the general's gaze without flinching. "I already told you who I am. Taiho, independent pilot. No nation, no flag, no allegiance. That is not an answer. It is the only one I have." Yura raised a hand, stopping the general before he could argue more. She stepped closer to the human, studying him with her compound eyes. Up close, she could see the details of his face. The small scars on his cheek and forehead. The dark circles under his eyes. The way his hands stayed still at his sides, not reaching for his weapon despite being surrounded by aliens twice his size. "You were a soldier once," she said. It was not a question. Taiho nodded slowly. "Yes, a pilot in Earth's Colonial Defense Force. I flew combat missions during the border wars. And now? Now I fly cargo, passengers, whatever pays. I go where the work is." "A mercenary," General Juan said with disgust. "You fight for money." "I did. For a while." Taiho's voice grew quieter. "Not anymore." Yura tilted her head. "What changed?" The human was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was flat, empty of emotion. "I was ordered to bomb a civilian shelter. Enemy refugees hiding in a medical station. Women. Children. The command said they were hiding weapons. They were not. I knew they were not. But my commanders did not care." He paused. "I refused the order. They court-martialed me. Discharged me without honor. Took my rank, my pension, my home. I have been drifting ever since. 5 years now." The docking bay was silent. Even General Juan seemed unsure what to say. Yura understood now why this human had come. He was not seeking glory or reward. He was seeking redemption. He carried guilt like a weight around his neck, and he was looking for a way to set it down. "You said you have seen extinction before," she said softly. "What did you mean?" Taiho's jaw tightened. "There was a colony. Small world called New Buzin. My people settled it 3 generations ago. During the border wars, it was caught between 2 fighting factions. Neither side wanted it, but neither would let the other have it. So they destroyed it instead. Burned the whole planet. Every city. Every farm. Every person." His hands finally moved, clenching into fists at his sides. "I was stationed nearby. I could have helped. Could have evacuated civilians. Could have done something. But my commanders said it was not our business. So I followed orders. I stayed at my post. And I watched 10 million people die." He looked up at Yura, and she saw the pain in his eyes, raw, unhealed. "I will not make that mistake again. Not ever. When I heard your distress calls, when I understood what was happening, I could not fly away. I could not watch another people die while I did nothing." Yura reached out with one of her 4 arms and touched the human's shoulder. He flinched slightly at the contact but did not pull away. "You carry heavy burdens," she said. "So do you, Your Majesty." She almost smiled. "Yes, I suppose we both do." General Juan cleared his throat. This is all very touching, but we still do not know if we can trust him. He could be lying. He could be working for the Drekker. If I wanted to hurt you, Taiho said calmly, I would not have announced myself. I would have simply attached explosives to your hull and detonated them. Your shields are failing. Your sensors are damaged. You would never have seen me coming. The general's antenna shot up in alarm. Taiho smiled slightly, the first smile Yura had seen from him. I noticed the weak points while I was approaching. Your ship needs repairs badly, General. I might be able to help with that too. I am a good mechanic. Yura made her decision. You may stay. You will have quarters near the pilot barracks. My officers will watch you, but you will not be treated as a prisoner. In return, I ask only for your honest service. Taiho bowed his head again. You have it, Your Majesty. And what do you want in return? She asked. Every service has a price. What is yours? The human thought for a moment. Nothing. I do not want payment, but if we survive this, if by some miracle we reach safety, I would like permission to stay. To remain with your people. You wish to become Valorian? General Wan asked, shocked. Double quotes, no. I wish to have a home. Taiho's voice was soft. I have been alone for 5 years. I had no family, no country, no place that wants me. I am tired of drifting. I am tired of having nothing to protect. He looked at Yura, and his eyes were completely honest. I am not asking for much. Just a place to belong. Even if that place is with aliens who might never fully accept me, it would still be more than I have now. In Valorian culture, such an offer was sacred. To pledge service without expecting reward was the highest form of loyalty. It was how ancient warriors had sworn themselves to their queens. To hear it from a human, a species most considered primitive and insignificant, was strange, but also powerful. You have my word, Yura said. If we survive, you will have a home among us. This I swear as queen. Taiho bowed deeply. Thank you, Your Majesty. I will not let you down. That night, after being shown to his quarters, Taiho did not sleep. Instead, he wandered the ship, learning its corridors, memorizing its layout. The guards watching him reported that he moved like a ghost, quiet, careful, always aware of his surroundings. Eventually, he found his way to the cargo holds. The guards there almost stopped him, but something in his eyes made them step aside. Inside, 8,000 Valorian children huddled together in the darkness. They were scared. Many were orphans now, their parents killed in battles they did not understand. They clung to each other for warmth and comfort, sleeping in piles like small animals hiding from a storm. That Taiho sat down among them. The children stared at him with large eyes, curious and afraid. They had never seen a human before. He looked strange to them, only 2 arms, flat face, soft skin. Slowly, Taiho reached into his bag and pulled out a handful of small stones. They were nothing special, just rocks he had collected from various planets during his travels. But to children who had lost everything, they might as well have been treasures. Watch, he said softly. He placed the stones in a circle and began to explain a simple game. The children did not understand his words at first, but they understood his hands, his movements, his patient smile. Within an hour, the children were playing, laughing, forgetting, even for a moment, that their world had ended. Yura came to check on the cargo holds later that night. She found Taiho surrounded by sleeping children, some of them curled against his legs, others using his bag as a pillow. He looked up at her with tired eyes. They needed distraction, he said quietly. Something to help them forget? Yura felt her heart twist. You are good with children. I like them. They have not learned to hate yet. They still believe in goodness. She sat down beside him, careful not to wake the sleeping little ones. Do you still believe in goodness, Tai-ho? He was quiet for a long time. I am trying to, Your Majesty. I am trying very hard. They sat together in the darkness. Two broken souls surrounded by sleeping children. As the ship flew through the endless night toward an uncertain future, and somewhere deep inside herself, in a place she had thought long dead, Yura felt her hope begin to grow. Admiral Vosk sat in his command chair, surrounded by the trophies of his victories. Flags of dead nations hung from the walls. Weapons of extinct warriors decorated his shelves. On his desk sat a collection of skulls, one from each species he had personally destroyed. Soon, he would add a Valorian skull to his collection. Report, he growled at his second-in-command. The Valorian convoy has fled toward the neutral zone, Admiral. They are 3 days from the jump gate. Our fleet will intercept them in 2. Vosk smiled, showing his filed teeth. Good. Prepare the hunting ships. I want the Queen brought to me alive. The rest can die. Yes, Admiral. Vosk leaned back in his chair, satisfied. This war had been too easy. The Valorians were weak, peaceful creatures who had forgotten how to fight. They had no warriors, no killer instinct, no stomach for real violence. Crushing them was almost boring. He wondered if the Queen would beg for mercy before the end. He hoped she would. He enjoyed it when they begged. His pleasant thoughts were interrupted by an alarm. Red lights flashed across the bridge. Officers scrambled to their stations. What is happening? Vosk demanded. Fuel Depot 7 has been destroyed, Admiral. Someone attacked it. Vosk stood up, his massive frame casting shadows across the bridge. Attacked? By whom? The Valorian fleet is fleeing. They have no ships capable of. Another alarm cut him off. Then another. And another. Fuel Depot 9 is gone. Communication Relay 4 is offline. Cargo Drone Convoy 12 has been destroyed. Vosk's eyes narrowed. Show me. The main screen flickered to life, displaying sensor data from across the sector. Someone was hitting their supply lines. Not the main fleet, they were too well defended. But the smaller targets. The fuel depots hidden in asteroid fields. The communication relays floating in deep space. The unmanned cargo drones carrying supplies. Someone was attacking them where they were weakest. Find them, Vosk snarled. Find them and kill them. But the attackers could not be found. They struck and vanished like ghosts. By the time Drekker ships arrived at each attack site, there was nothing left but debris and silence. For 2 weeks, the attacks continued. Tai-ho flew through the darkness like a shadow. His tiny fighter was invisible against the vast emptiness of space. Too small for long-range sensors to detect. Too quiet for patrol ships to hear. He moved from target to target, striking fast and disappearing before anyone could respond. He did not fight like a soldier. He did not charge into battle or seek glory in combat. Instead, he fought like a hunter, patient, careful, always looking for weakness. The Drekker were powerful. Their ships were massive and heavily armed. In a straight fight, Tai-ho would die in seconds. So he did not fight straight. He hit fuel depots, leaving enemy ships stranded without power. He destroyed communication relays, cutting off their ability to coordinate. He ambushed cargo drones, denying them food and ammunition. It was not honorable. It was not brave. By Drekker standards, it was cowardly. But it was working. Back on the Valorian flagship, Duri, the tactical officer, watched the reports with growing amazement. She was an old soldier, veteran of 100 small battles before the Drekker came. She had seen many warriors in her life, but never one like this human. He is insane, she muttered, studying the tactical display. Completely insane. He's one ship against an entire fleet. He should be dead already. General Juan stood beside her, his arms crossed. Perhaps the Drekker cannot catch what they cannot see. That fighter is barely bigger than an escape pod. Their sensors are designed to detect warships, not whatever that thing is. It is not just his ship, Dury said slowly. It is how he thinks. Look at his attack pattern. He is not trying to destroy the Drekker fleet. He is trying to cripple it. Slow it down. Give us time to escape. She turned to look at the general. I have studied Drekker tactics for years. They are predators. They think in terms of strength, of overwhelming force. They do not understand this kind of warfare. They cannot predict it because they cannot imagine it. What do you mean? Dury pointed at the screen. He fights like he has nothing to lose, but everything to protect. The Drekker fight for glory, for conquest, for the joy of destruction. This human, he fights for something else. Something they cannot understand. On the screen, another Drekker fuel depot exploded. Queen Yura received daily reports from Taiho. Short messages, transmitted through encrypted channels. Always the same format: targets destroyed, fuel remaining, damage sustained. The damage reports worried her. Each day, his fighter took more hits. Each day, his ship grew weaker. But each day, he went back out. Again and again, he flew into danger alone. On the 12th day, he did not respond to her hails for 6 hours. When he finally answered, his face was pale and his arm was wrapped in bloody bandages. What happened? Yura demanded. Got careless, Taiho said simply. Drekker patrol found me. I escaped, but they got a few good shots in first. My left engine is damaged. I will need to make repairs. Come back to the convoy. Our mechanics can. No time. Vosk is pushing his fleet hard. If I stop attacking, he will catch up to you before you reach the jump gate. I need to keep hitting them. You are wounded. Your ship is falling apart. You cannot. I can. His voice was firm. I have to. This is why I came, Your Majesty. This is what I am for. Yura felt a strange pain in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it. It was fear for this strange human who had given everything for people he barely knew. You are not expendable, she said quietly. You matter. Do you understand? Taiho smiled slightly. That is the first time anyone has said that to me in 5 years. The transmission ended. Yura stood alone on the bridge, her hands trembling. General Wan approached her. My queen, I owe you an apology. I did not trust the human. I thought he was a fool or a spy or worse. I was wrong. Yes, Yura said. You were. What he is doing? It is buying us time. Every day he fights, we get closer to safety. If he can keep the Drekker busy for another week, we will reach the jump gate. We will escape. If he survives another week. The general was silent. They both knew the truth. Taiho was burning himself up to save them. Every attack cost him fuel, ammunition, parts of his ship he could not replace. Eventually, he would have nothing left. On the 14th day, Taiho's fighter limped back to the convoy. It was barely recognizable, hull cracked, engine sputtering, weapon systems offline. The ship looked like it had been through a war. Because it had. When the docking bay opened and Taiho climbed out, Yura was waiting for him personally. He looked terrible. His face was gray with exhaustion. His wounded arm was still bandaged, and now his leg was wrapped too. He walked with a limp, leaning against his broken ship for support. Mission successful, he said weakly. Admiral Vosk's flagship lost 3 supply ships this morning. His advance will slow by at least 2 more days. You are wounded, Yura said. Again, I am alive. That is enough. No, it is not. Before her guards could stop her, before anyone could react, Queen Yura stepped forward and wrapped her arms around the human. All 4 of them. She held him gently, careful not to hurt his wounds, but firmly enough that he could not pull away. In Valorian culture, such an embrace was reserved for family, for heroes, for those who had earned the deepest respect. Taiho stood frozen, unsure how to respond. "Your Majesty, this is not necessary." "Yes, it is." Yura's voice was thick with emotion. "What you have done, what you are doing, my people will never forget it. I will never forget it." She pulled back and looked into his tired eyes. "You are not just a pilot anymore, Taiho. You are a hero of the Valorian people. Whatever happens next, know that you have earned your place among us." Taiho stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, something broke inside him. His composure cracked. His eyes grew wet, and a single tear rolled down his cheek. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Yura took his arm and helped him walk toward the medical bay. "Come, let us fix your wounds. And when you are healed, we will face whatever comes next together." The human leaned against her, too tired to argue. For the first time in 5 years, he was not alone. For the first time in 5 years, he had found something worth fighting for, and that, he realized, made all the difference. The convoy drifted through empty space like a funeral procession. 18 ships remained all that survived of the mighty Valorian fleet. They moved slowly, carefully, trying not to attract attention as they crawled toward the distant jump gate. In the medical bay of the flagship, Taiho lay on a bed designed for someone twice his size. His wounds were healing slowly, treated by medicines designed for Valorian bodies. The doctors did their best, but human biology was strange to them. They had to guess at dosages. Sometimes they guessed wrong. He did not complain. Pain was an old friend. Queen Yura visited him every day. At first, her advisors questioned this. A queen spending time with a wounded human mercenary was unusual, even inappropriate. But Yura ignored them. She came anyway. They talked for hours. About everything. About nothing. "Tell me about Earth," Yura said one evening, sitting beside his bed. The lights were dim, and the ship hummed quietly around them. "I have never seen it. I know only what I have read in databases." Taiho stared at the ceiling, remembering. "It is beautiful. More beautiful than any database can describe. Blue oceans that cover most of the planet. Green forests that stretch for thousands of kilometers. Mountains that touch the clouds. Deserts that burn gold in the sunset. It sounds wonderful." "It is. It is. But it is also terrible." His voice grew softer. "Humans have spent most of their history trying to destroy it. And each other. Wars, pollution, greed. We came very close to killing everything. Several times. But you survived." "Yes, barely. We learned, eventually. Some of us did anyway." Yura tilted her head, studying him with her compound eyes. "You speak of your species with such sadness, as if you are ashamed of them." Taiho was quiet for a moment. "I am ashamed of some things. The cruelty, the selfishness, the way we hurt each other for money or power or just because we can. Humans are capable of great evil, Your Majesty. I have seen it. I have been part of it. But you are also capable of great good. You came to help us when you had no reason to. You risked everything for strangers. That is different, is it?" Yura reached out and touched his hand. Her fingers were long and delicate, cool against his warm human skin. "You said humans produce both monsters and heroes. But you did not mention that sometimes the same person can be both. A monster who chooses to become a hero. Is that not the most human thing of all?" Taiho turned his head to look at her. In the dim light, her blue skin seemed to glow faintly. Her large eyes reflected the stars visible through the medical bay window. She was alien, completely different from anything human, yet somehow beautiful. "You are very wise," he said. "I am very tired," she replied. "But thank you. You do not sleep, do you?" Yura's antenna drooped slightly, a Valorian sign of exhaustion. "No, not well. As queen, I carry a connection to my people, a psychic bond. I feel their fear, their grief, their pain. Every night, when I try to rest, I feel 8,000 hearts breaking." Taiho sat up slowly, ignoring the pain in his side. "That is a terrible burden. It is the price of being queen. My mother carried it before me, her mother before her. We feel our people so that we never forget what we are fighting for. But who carries you?" The question surprised her. No one had ever asked that before. Queens were meant to be strong, unbreakable, above weakness. To admit that she needed support would be shameful. But looking at this human, this small, wounded creature who had given everything for her people, she found she could not lie. "No one," she whispered. "There is no one left." Taiho reached out and took her hand. His grip was gentle but firm. "Then let me. You are wounded. You are exhausted. You have your own burdens. Yes, and you helped me carry them. You welcomed me when you had no reason to trust me. You gave me purpose when I had none. You made me feel like I mattered." He squeezed her hand. "Let me return the favor. Just for tonight. Tell me what you are feeling. All of it. I will listen." Yura stared at him. In 10,000 years of Valorian history, no queen had ever shared her burden with an outsider. It was unthinkable, impossible, but she was so tired. So very, very tired, and so she told him. She told him about the day her mother died, how she felt the queen's heart stop through their psychic bond, felt the light leave her mother's soul. She told him about the coronation, standing before her people with ashes in her hair and terror in her heart. She told him about every battle, every loss, every friend she had watched died out. She told him about the children in the cargo hold, how she visited them every night, watched them sleep, and wept because she did not know if she could save them. She told him about her fear, her doubt, her certainty that she was going to fail, that she was going to be the last queen of a dead species. Taiho listened to all of it. He did not interrupt. He did not judge. He simply held her hand and let her speak. When she finally finished, the stars had moved across the window. Hours had passed. Her throat was raw from talking, and her eyes were wet with tears she had held back for 2 years. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "I should not have burdened you with this." "You are not burdening me." Taiho's voice was firm. "You are trusting me. There is a difference. I feel so weak. You are not weak." He looked directly into her eyes. "You have carried the weight of an entire species on your shoulders for 2 years. You have fought against impossible odds without giving up. You have kept your people alive when everyone said it was hopeless. That is not weakness, Your Majesty. That is strength. More strength than I have ever seen." Yura felt something shift inside her chest, a warmth she had not felt in a long time. "You truly believe that?" "I know it, because I have met many leaders in my life. Generals, admirals, politicians. Most of them were cowards who hid behind their power. But you stand at the front. You share your people's pain. You would die for them without hesitation." He smiled a real smile, the first she had ever seen from him that reached his eyes. "You are the kind of leader I would have followed anywhere when I was young and foolish. The kind of leader I would follow now." Yura did not know why she did what she did next. Perhaps it was exhaustion. Perhaps it was the relief of finally being understood. Perhaps it was something else entirely. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his. In Valorian culture, it was an intimate gesture, a sharing of thoughts, of feelings, of souls. Normally, It would be inappropriate between a queen and a commoner. But nothing about this moment was normal. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for seeing me. Not the queen, not the crown, just me." "I will always see you," Taiho replied. "Just you." They stayed like that for a long time, foreheads touching, hands intertwined. Two broken souls finding comfort in each other. When dawn came, or what passed for dawn in the eternal night of space, Yura rose to return to her duties. But at the door, she stopped. "The advisors talk," she said without turning around. "They say I have grown too close to the alien, that it is inappropriate, dangerous. And what do you say?" She was quiet for a moment. Then, softly, "I say that I have finally found someone who understands. Someone who carries burdens like mine. Someone who knows what it is like to be alone." She turned to look at him. "I do not know what the future holds, Taiho. I do not know if we will survive the next week. But whatever happens, I am glad you found us. I am glad you stayed." Taiho nodded slowly. "So am I, Your Majesty." "So am I." Yura left, and the door closed behind her. Taiho lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. His wounds still ached. His body was still weak. But somewhere deep inside, in a place he thought had died long ago, something warm was growing. He had come to this war expecting to die. He had expected to trade his life for a moment of meaning, a single act of redemption before the darkness took him. Instead, he had found something else. Something he had not dared to hope for. A home. A purpose. A reason to live. And maybe, just maybe, something more. He closed his eyes and slept. For the first time in years, he did not dream of fire and death. Instead, he dreamed of blue skin and starlight, of gentle hands and compound eyes, of a future that might actually be worth fighting for. When he woke, he was smiling. The jump gate hung in space like a ring of frozen lightning. Massive metal arches formed a circle 3 kilometers wide, filled with swirling blue energy. It was the door to safety, the path to neutral space where the Drekker could not follow. It was so close. Less than 6 hours away, and standing between the Valorian convoy and freedom was Admiral Vosk's fleet. Queen Yura stood on the bridge of her flagship, staring at the tactical display. 47 Drekker warships had arrived during the night, dropping out of hyperspace like sharks smelling blood. They formed a wall of metal and weapons between the convoy and the jump gate. "They knew," General Wan said bitterly. "Somehow, they knew we would come this way. It does not matter how they knew." Yura's voice was calm, but her hands were clenched tight. "They are here. We must deal with them." "With what?" "We have 18 ships. They have 47. Our weapons are damaged. Our shields are failing. Our crews are exhausted. This is not a battle we can win. Then we will lose." Yura turned to face her officers. "But we will lose fighting. We will buy our children time to reach the gate. Perhaps some of them will make it through. Perhaps the future of our species will survive, even if we do not." The bridge was silent. Everyone understood what she was saying. This was the end. They were going to die here, in the shadow of the gate that should have been their salvation. "Your Majesty." The voice came from behind them. Taiho stood at the entrance to the bridge, dressed in his flight suit. His wounds were not fully healed. He walked with a slight limp, and his left arm moved stiffly. But his eyes were clear and determined. "You should be resting," Yura said. "I am done resting." He walked forward, past the guards and officers, until he stood beside her. "I have a plan." General Wan scoffed. "Another plan? What miracle do you propose now, human? Your harassment tactics will not work here. There are too many ships, I know." Taiho pointed at the tactical display at the center of the Drekker formation. "That is Admiral Vosk's flagship. I have been studying it for weeks. During my attacks, I noticed something. He zoomed in on the massive warship. The reactor core. It was damaged in a battle 2 months ago. They repaired it, but the repairs were rushed, incomplete. There is a weak point in the shielding. Small, but it is there. So? General Juan asked. So, if something were to hit that weak point at high speed something, carrying enough explosive material, the reactor would overload. The explosion would destroy the flagship and trigger a chain reaction in the surrounding ships. At least half the Drekker fleet would be crippled. Silence fell over the bridge. Dury, the tactical officer, stepped forward. He is right. I can see the weak point on our scans. It is small, less than a meter wide. Hitting it would require incredible precision. And whatever hit, it would need to penetrate the shields, the armor, and the outer hull first. What kind of weapon could do that? General Juan asked. Taiho met his eyes. Not a weapon. A ship. Yura felt ice form in her chest. No. I have rigged my fighter with all of our remaining explosive charges. If I fly directly into the reactor core... No. Yura stepped forward, grabbing his arm. I forbid it. As your queen, I forbid it. Taiho looked at her, and his eyes were full of pain, but also peace. Your Majesty, Yura, this is why I came. This is what I am meant to do. You are meant to die? Her voice cracked. That is what you believe? I am meant to save people. I failed before. I watched 10 million people die because I was too afraid to act. I have carried that weight for 5 years. He touched her face gently with his free hand. You gave me a chance to set it down. You gave me a home. A purpose. Something worth dying for. And what about something worth living for? Tears ran down Yura's face. What about that? Taiho smiled a sad, beautiful smile. I have had that too. These past weeks with you, with your people. They have been the best of my life. I would not trade them for anything. Then stay. Stay and live. We will find another way. There is no other way. He pulled a small object from his pocket. A smooth stone, polished by years of handling. This is from my homeworld, Earth. I have carried it with me since I left. He pressed it into her hand. Give it to the children. Tell them I kept my promise. Tell them I found somewhere to belong. Taiho, please. Tell them that humans are stubborn. That we do not give up. That we will stand between darkness and light even when we are afraid. Especially when we are afraid. His voice grew thick. Tell them that one human loved them. And that he was proud to die for them. He leaned forward and pressed his forehead to hers, just as she had done in the medical bay. For a long moment, they stood there, sharing breath, sharing tears. I will never forget you, Yura whispered. I know. That is enough. That is everything. He pulled away and walked toward the door. At the threshold, he stopped and looked back at the bridge. At General Juan, standing stiff and saluting. At Dury, wiping tears from her eyes. At the crew members who had once looked at him with suspicion and now looked at him with something close to worship. It has been an honor, he said. Truly. Then he was gone. Taiho climbed into his fighter for the last time. The cockpit was familiar. Every scratch, every patch, every jury-rigged repair. This ship had carried him across the galaxy. It had been his home when he had no other dot. Now it would carry him one final time. He launched from the docking bay and flew toward the Drekker fleet. Around him, the Valorian convoy began to move, pushing toward the jump gate while the enemy was focused on the single fighter streaking toward them. Human vessel. Admiral Vosk's voice crackled over the radio. What do you think you are doing? You cannot possibly believe that one fighter can Taiho cut the communication. He did not need to hear Vosk's voice. He did not need anything except a targeting computer. the flight controls, and the courage to see this through. Drekker ships opened fire. Plasma bolts filled the space around him, turning the darkness into a storm of light and death. Taiho flew through it like he was born to. He dodged, weaved, spiraled, pushed his damaged ship to its absolute limits. Behind him, on the Valorian flagship, children pressed against the viewports to watch. They did not fully understand what was happening. They only knew that the human, the strange alien who had taught them games and told them stories and sat with them in the darkness, was flying into the fire. "Go, Taiho," one of them whispered. "Go." On the bridge, Queen Yura watched through tears. She clutched the stone in her hand so tight that it cut into her palm. Taiho's fighter breached the outer defenses. It shot past destroyers and cruisers, too fast and too small to hit. The Drekker flagship loomed ahead, massive, terrible, bristling with weapons. "Target acquired," Taiho said softly, to no one. Trajectory locked. He thought of Earth, of blue oceans and green forests, of the home he had lost. He thought of New Bizon, of the 10 million people he had failed to save, of the guilt that had followed him across the stars. He thought of Yura, of her eyes, her voice, her gentle touch, of the connection they had found in the darkness of space. He smiled. "This one is for you," he whispered. "All of you." He pushed the throttle forward. The explosion was blinding. It tore through the Drekker flagship like a sun being born. The chain reaction spread from ship to ship, consuming destroyers and cruisers in waves of fire. Half the Drekker fleet vanished in seconds. When the light faded, the path to the jump gate was clear. Queen Yura stood frozen on her bridge. She could not breathe, could not move, could not think. "The gate is open," General Wan said quietly. "We must go, now." She did not respond. "My queen." His voice was gentle. "He gave us this chance. We must not waste it." Slowly, Yura turned. Her face was wet with tears, but her voice was steady. "Take us through." All ships. Maximum speed. The Valorian convoy flew toward the jump gate. One by one, the ships passed through the swirling blue energy and vanished to safety. The flagship was last. As it approached the gate, Yura stood at the window, looking back at the debris field that had been the Drekker fleet. Somewhere in that wreckage was all that remained of Taiho's ship. "Of Taiho. Goodbye," she whispered. "And thank you. For everything." The ship entered the gate. Blue light surrounded them. And then they were gone. 30 years later, the Valorian people had rebuilt. Their new homeworld orbited a yellow star chosen because it reminded Yura of the sun Taiho had described to her so long ago. Cities rose from the plains. Children played in parks. Life continued. In the capital city stood a statue. It depicted a human small, lean, with tired eyes and a gentle smile. He stood with his arms open, as if welcoming the people who passed by. At the base of the statue, an inscription in 2 languages. "He came from the stars with nothing. He left us everything." Every year, on the anniversary of the battle, Queen Yura visited the statue. She was old now, her blue skin faded to pale gray, her movements slow and careful. But she still came. She placed a stone at the statue's feet, the same stone Taiho had given her. Worn smooth by decades of handling. Her grandchildren gathered around her, curious as children always are. "Grandmother," one of them asked, "tell us about the human again." Yura smiled. It was a sad smile, but also warm. His name was Taiho. He was a pilot, a warrior, a hero. Did he really save everyone? Yes, he did. Why? He was not one of us. He did not have to help. Yura knelt down, slow and careful, and touched her grandchild's face. Because that is what humans do.